The people are both the masters of both the Congress and the courts. Not to overthrow the Constitution, but to overthrow the men who would pervert it. Where the people fear the government, you have tyranny. And where the government fears the people, you have liberty. Welcome back, everyone. My name's Daniel Hapney. This still is The Real Story. Tonight I got an interesting show. At least I think it's interesting because I think you should consider, have you heard all the people talking about power and political power? You know, we get a new president or a president-elect, and what do we hear? We hear, oh, gee, you know, he's coming into power. There's a handover of power, a transfer of power. You keep hearing these things. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, political power, what does it all mean, and what has it meant back in history? And we hear that, well, now the Democrats, you know, control the House and they control the Senate and they've got the presidency, right? So they've got all this power. And, you know, for you and I, what does political power mean? What does it mean to you? Is it just some vague thing like, oh, they get to, you know, they get to push forth legislation and all that? How about they get to use the power of the state coercively? Because what is political power really when it comes down to it? Here we are, when I say we, here we have a society worshiping it. When I say worshiping it, the news constantly. I mean, if you've seen any of the Newsweek and the Time magazines or the television news, how, hey, there's all this political power, these power brokers, they're going to be the head of this committee and that committee and all this. And we'll get into some of the people behind the scenes also. But the idea, though, of political power, what does it really mean? The more I researched it, the more I realized that it doesn't matter whether it's a law, it's a, an edict, you know, a bill, or whatever you call it. It always comes down to what? It comes down to coercive force used against, in this case, the citizens. So if you think about us as a country, okay, we were formed, okay, by, I think, some very great gentlemen and ladies who decided that the people should have the power and the power should rest with the people. And that's why I brought you that quote, and I try to help you remember, and hopefully you remember this, and it is that when the government fears the people, you have liberty. And when the people fear the government, you have tyranny. Well, we've kind of flipped from like the founding of this country to where we are now, where most people do fear the government, and rightfully so. And in the future, they're going to fear them a lot more. You know, and we'll get into lies and all that stuff later about bad government and crooks. But why I'm saying all this is, what does political power really mean? What's the end result? They pass some law, they change some rule, some regulation, they upgrade a fee. When I say upgrade, have you ever known fees to go down? You know, so they make some change. And then how do they get you to adhere to said change? Whether it's a court order, once again, whether it's a law, no matter what it is, when the government says, hey, you must do, that power gets backed up by what? Coercion. Take the most recent thing in Massachusetts. You all have to have health insurance, right? All employers have to provide it, you know? Little socialist thinking thing. It sounds great on the surface. Oh, everybody's going to have health insurance. Well, needless to say, it's years later, not everybody has it. But what are they doing? They're now changing those fees, huh? Well, we're going to penalize you $219 last year if you did your taxes. And this year, if you do it, well, gee, it's going to be more. Then it's going to be, I think they're taking it up to $1,000. So, yeah, what if you don't pay that tax? Well, you get to, you know, think like Ed Brown did. If he didn't, you know, quote, pay his taxes, then they use force. And that's what political power really always comes down to. Do you see that? I mean, do you understand that? Do you remember people fearing the Internal Revenue Service? You know? Now, once again, now you've got people fearing the government, okay? They're going to, you know, fear when you're in the line, right? And you're going to the airline thing and you're going to get your ticket and most people are afraid and they're all coward because they've been conditioned. They can't say anything. Otherwise, that government political power is going to come down upon them, right? What I'm trying to get you to understand is that political power that we worship, that we hold up real high, oh, this is great. He's going to have power now. She's going to have power. There's going to be, you know, new power in the White House. There'll be new power, this and that. Well, what power really is, and what it turns out to be, political power, is coercive power that knocks on your door and has a gun and a badge. And instead of, you know, us as a nation, as a society, worshiping political power, maybe what we should do is, you know, not so much worship, but at least hold up and cheer that we have, quote, a rule of law, that we have a constitution that limits the power of our government. Unlike what you hear every day in the news, look at all your things. Your government's going to bail out what? Every industry with your dollars. Even though they're crooks, we're going to bail them out. Even though we found them cheating, lying, stealing, killing, that's okay. going to take your money and bail them out. And if you don't pay that money, then someone's coming to your house. They've got a badge and they've got a gun. Yeah. You know, and then what? They're running around. Now we've got more people than ever with badges and guns, right? I mean, what? Bush tripled the size of the federal government. You know, now we've got Homeland Security. Remember Hitler, Zafazaland. You know, we've got this Homeland Security thing. When, if we go back to the Second Amendment, the Constitution actually says what's necessary for security in a free state. Yeah. Anybody want to read the Constitution? Maybe the Second Amendment? Yeah, what is necessary for the security of a free state? Here's a little question for you viewers. What's in that Bill of Rights? What's that Second Amendment on there? So anyway, this political power thing. So I started thinking about it, and I wanted you to think about it. And I wanted you to consider that coercive force, that maybe a few people up in, quote, power places and power positions, that they now can coerce the ones below them, because they're all below. You're not a congressman or senator. You're just a regular wee little person. You know, they forget that the country was founded by we the people, and that the freedom and the rights reside with the people, and the power resides with the people, not with the executive branch, not with the judicial branch, not even with the legislative branch. Okay? They can pass laws that say, well, we can come to your house and take your gun. Well, I got news for you. They can't come to your house and take your gun. Okay? If you allow them to, then that's kind of like allowing them to tell you, well, you better take your shoes off because you might be Al-Qaeda at the airport, right? Show your papers 15 times because you might be Al-Qaeda. Look at what they've done to our children. It's time for a lockdown, kiddies. This was America. We wouldn't stand for that. We taught our children to stand up and to be brave. What's happened now? We've allowed who and what and how to change the way our society even looks at things. So, I'm going to give you a quote. I'll show you a picture. Let's give you a quote. This guy was I don't know if he was loved over there in his, quote, homeland, but let's think. We're going to try to find him if he's out here. But this I thought was one of my, most important quotes on political power. Here's the guy. He had a famous quote. His name was Mao. Mao Zedong. Zedong. The T's kind of silent. Okay? The important thing about Mao was Mao said that political power emanates from the barrel of a gun. What did he know? Did the people that he was, with his Cultural Revolution killing 40 to 60 million, I think they admitted to 60 million plus, but during that Cultural Revolution, they didn't let the little people have guns, did they? Think of that, because what's going to happen now is you have this new people in power. I think we have, everybody's all excited about this guy because he's now, quote, in power. And I thought it was interesting. And the reason I had the show is I picked up a stack of Newsweeks. I was at the library, or at a library. And I picked up a stack of Newsweeks, and I'm going through them. And what do I see? I see all this thing about, it was the previous year was the election year, and I'm looking through them, and all this stuff, political power, politics change. And I thought, once again, and I'll ask you, what does political power mean? Is the end result, when you go through and you clear away all the stuff, when there is a, quote, new law, or a new ruling, a new whatever, it always comes down to what? It comes down to coercive force. And once again, don't they usually come to your house with a SWAT team? And SWAT doesn't stand for, hey, we're your friends to help you out. Whether it's no matter what the law is, it always comes down to what? It comes down to coercive force. And that's why we as citizens, are supposed to be awake and supposed to be keeping our government in check, and not just that, but keeping the size of our government small. Because no matter what it is, if we allow them to grow, let's say they're going to bail out everything. We're just going to become that socialist nation you always heard about in other places. But if they bail out everything, who's going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? How are your children going to pay for it? And if they decide not to pay for it, doesn't mean that they'll have a knock at the door and then someone with a badge and a gun is going to come. And that's the true meaning of political power. And if you think I'm wrong, go through history. Go back for me, go open up a history book. Go find out if that hasn't been what real political power is. Nothing changes in history. I don't think it's going to change for you, whether you're here in Shawnee or anywhere else in the world. Okay? That's the thought. So anyway, there I was, going through the library, and I saw a couple things. First off, I want to read from you, this is the Article number 2 of the Bill of Rights. And it starts off with a well-regulated militia, comma, Now, what did the word regulated mean back then, let alone militia? You know, being necessary to the security of a free state. Well, I've got to ask you people, what kind of state would you like? Would you like a free state? Yeah, you know, they used to make every able-bodied man, okay, have to keep arms because they knew it was the people that kept the government in check. Now it's the government keeping you in check. Am I wrong?